tan inteligente.
All right, so do you like what you hear? That is Dominican-American singer-songwriter Lacassandra with a track from her sophomore album, Gloria y Dolores. Rooted in her Caribbean heritage and New York City upbringing, she creates music that connects deeply with her audience. Now she's taking those influences on the road with her first U.S. tour, and next stop, right here in Houston, Lacassandra joins us to share what fans can expect from her show tonight. Good morning.
Wow.
All right, I'm going to start with, I asked you, I said, you know, this is intentional with your flower. Tell us about the flower.
Well, it kind of just started with just wanting to find a way to like express myself more visually, and also just to kind of like oomph on my outfits, and then it just turned into like this spiral thing where it just kind of like became part of me. In addition to that, flowers have always been so important. It's something that my grandmothers loved. They had so many flowers and they loved like growing them, and my mom is a big fan of flowers, and my tias, and so we're just flower girlies.
Yeah, they planted a seed and now they're watching it grow, and you're all right. So you're raised by a single mom, but your grandmother also influenced your musical taste.
Yes. 100%.
What did you grow up listening to?
Well, you know, I grew up kind of listening to best of the both worlds. I was born in New York, and so with my mom and my, you know, obviously my dad and my grandmothers, I grew up listening to my culture, the Caribbean roots, Dominican Republic, merengue, bachata, boleros.
Yeah.
With my grandmother, she had just an exquisite taste in music, and she loved a lot of the Mexican rhythms, mariachis, baladas, all that romantic novela movie music. And so I think having a little bit of that, and also my upbringing with the R&B and all that, just kind of like,
you throw Sade in there as well,
I love
right?
Sade. My older cousins put me onto her, and I'm like, I'm just an old soul. I just gravitate towards all of that.
Yeah, it was just a matter of time before you started doing what almost every singer, musician has done. You were putting on concerts like as a young girl in the living room.
I was.
Yeah. The venue was the living room. Yeah.
Yes, immediately when people would come over, I'd be like, I want to sing a new song for you. And I would just go off.
Yeah. Music brings so many people joy, and it's funny. My mom, I remember she would always buy these albums that were in Spanish, and I go, Mom, you don't even know Spanish. Why? She goes, I like the way it feels. I can tell what the song is saying by how it feels. But music served as an escape for you during kind of an unorthodox upbringing. What were some of the things that you were dealing with, although it was things that other families dealt with too?
Yeah. I would definitely say I didn't have, I had a very unconventional upbringing. My father, I love him so much, but he continues to battle with alcoholism.
Has some struggles, yeah.
And so my mom, she was very brave enough to leave him with her 5 kids at a very young age. And she pushed forward, she pushed through. And it just, you know, as a child going through divorce is hard enough, and then when dealing with like, I had to like really step in and help with my younger siblings at the same time.
Well, you talked about being an old soul. That's one of the things that can make that happen for you. But your relief and release was music.
Yeah.
And then you finally went from the living room stage to a real stage because you performed at the high school talent shows. Now, when you're up on the stage for the first time and you're hoping other people like what you do, what was that experience like for you? And do you still get that kind of feeling when you go up on a stage and perform in front of people?
Oh my God. So it's a very different feeling now, because when I first went on stage, the nerves literally shut me down. Like I had uncontrollable shakes. I was like, what is going on? What is happening to my body? I couldn't control it. I was so nervous. I had the biggest stage fright ever.
Yeah.
But there was a fire there, and there was like a yearning and a calling. And so I just kept pushing through the stage fright, kept pushing through. And now it's like, I just love being up there, and it's a fire. And there's nerves always, and those nerves are good because they push you to be your best up there.
Yeah, it's funny. People would always ask me, how did you get through that? Like, how can you get in front of a camera? And I said, look, I got rent to pay, and I got food to eat, and a car that needs gas. I would, in the first like few seconds of a live shot, I would go, okay, get it together, Deborah, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do those things. But you have to kind of balance your life and music. Another thing that you did, for a lot of people will put off a dream and a passion because they say, I can't afford to jump in it full time. You didn't jump in that full time.
Yeah.
And so you had that balance of the 9 to 5, but then and having to, go off and book gigs as well. You made a decision finally to say, look, I can't do both. I got to put 100% into what I really want to do, or at least give it that try.
Yeah.
That's a big decision to make. And I always ask entrepreneurs or people in the music business or acting business, the moment you say, I'm going to leave the security of that 9 to 5 and focus on my passion.
I prayed a lot about it, and I ultimately had left it in God's hands because we grew up with nothing. Like we grew up, my mom working hard, and so I didn't grow up with I would guess you would say like a silver spoon or anyone really helping financially. So I had to pay rent. I had to survive, right? It got to a point where I had to tell myself this is temporary. So I always knew going into the work field and right after college, this was temporary, but it was hard.
Yeah.
It was so hard being behind a screen and knowing that you're meant to be somewhere else. And I just started diving deep into performing, and then it just started exponentially growing and snowballing.
You always know if it doesn't work. Oftentimes advice for people is you always know if it doesn't work, you can go back to what it was before.
Exactly.
But keep moving forward and see what can happen.
That was my thing. I was like, okay, so I'm never going to be this young again. That's what I told myself. I was really young too. I mean, anyways.
You were really. I think you're still kind of young. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so I'm like, I got to do this now. So I saved up everything from performing, additionally to working, and I was able to give myself like a year cushion.
And that's the key right there. You prepared for it.
I prepared, and then there was just like an undeniable like force and just within me, like it's done.
Yeah.
Like now it's time to move on.
All right. Speaking of moving on, lágrimas, tears. All right, take us behind that debut album.
So that is my first album, my debut album, and it was the first songs that I ever wrote, put them on an album, and we recorded them in Havana, Cuba.
That in itself is pretty cool. I've been to Cuba before, and it's a different feeling there.
It's a magical feeling, especially for a creative. It's just a city like full of magic for that. I love it, and it was such a cool experience to do that there. And it's a project that I'm very so happy for. It's an introduction to my sound, who I am. It talks about my Caribbean rhythms and also the fusion of the modern twist,
Yeah. And as I started out with earlier by saying, like, when you say Hispanic, that is such a big umbrella that has so many different influences. Obviously, Tejano music is something that we're used to here in Texas, but the music can all sound different, just like the food. Sometimes it's spicy, sometimes it's not spicy, sometimes it's sweet, but it's a nice introduction to part of that umbrella.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely falls under the tropical music, and that's what I love to do, is defend those rhythms, where I come from, the music I grew up listening to in the house parties, or my mom cleaning on a Sunday morning.
Your career highlights, you've come a long way since the living room, although the living room is a good place to be because that's where you get your most effective criticism, right? All right. But you opened at Yankee Stadium, you performed at Havana Jazz Festival, and performed internationally, of course. All right, so your album, Gloria y Dolores. This one's cool because the sound is, like you mentioned earlier, you touched on the novellas, right?
Yeah.
So you get these stories and these big productions, these beautiful ballads and this beautiful voice.
Yeah, so where I feel like Lágrimas was the appetizer, Gloria Dolores is definitely the entree. And it's a more redefined sound of who I am. It dives deeper, it peels another layer of the onion, as you would say. And it talks about a really personal point in my life, my childhood and that pivotal like adolescent, teenage years and like first loves that I experienced. It also is a album that I dedicated to my two grandmothers, Gloria y Dolores.
Yeah.
The irony of that is that without me even realizing it, as I started telling the stories that I was writing, creating, it talks about all the glory and the pain that I went through in my life. So it's just a strong duality, a powerful duality of Gloria y Dolores, Glory and Pain.
Just hearing you sing, like in my ear, that little clip that we had right there, it's like you can tell that it is it's a story. It's like even if you don't understand Spanish, it's just so beautiful, and you know that it's a beautiful story. All right, your goal with your music is to connect through music to Spanish speakers, to Spanglish speakers, and non-Spanish speakers as well, to connect to everybody. What can we expect at your concert tonight?
Well, I think at my concert tonight, you can expect to hear these rhythms, these tropical rhythms that inspired me and shaped my life, and the ones that also influenced me, like merengue, boleros, mariachi pop, and I just feel like it is a moment of coming together, of being proud of being where you're from, even if you're not Latino, just being proud of that, identifying yourself with music. Like you said, your mother listened to music that was Spanish and she doesn't know Spanish. Music is universal, and I truly believe that, and it is a living thing. It can mean one thing today and another thing tomorrow, and that's what I want you to take away from the concert, is to feel so good, to enjoy the moment, to let it go, dance, bailar un poquito, gozar, disfrutar, and just really, really absorb the stories that are being told there.
You say it could be one thing today and one thing tomorrow. Have you ever noticed that, like, when you go through a breakup, all the breakup songs come on the radio all of a sudden? Did you?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I was just wondering if I was the only one that ever noticed that when I was growing up. All right, Lacassandra will be live in concert tonight at White Oak Music Hall. It's an all-ages show, and doors open at 7 p.m. Tickets are still available online for what will be an electric performance. White Oak Music Hall is just a great venue to really get up close and personal with a performer. For more information, visit greatdayhouston.com, and we will connect you. You go home and take a nap. All right.